Whether you guys have just started out on your programming journey or you've been coding for a little while now, you may have come to realize that a healthy coding environment is essential for optimizing your productivity and quality of work. That is why today we're going to be looking at the best VS Code extensions that I use in my day-to-day work as a full-time computer science student. You're only going to need 3 things in this video: a computer or a laptop that has the ability to turn on, an internet connection that allows you to browse the web, and an IDE, also known as an integrated development environment. In this specific video, we'll be using VS Code. You may have come across it before. It's quite an underground application. It's my personal favorite, so that's what we're going to roll with. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys if you want to download that bad boy. Once you have downloaded and installed said application, you'll be met with a welcome page, which is very nice. Close that shit ASAP because you will not be needing it. So the first thing that you guys are going to want to do is head over to the extension section here. It looks like a little window, and we're going to type in Code Runner in the search bar there, all right? Now, that'll pop up and it'll be the first one with 24.5 million downloads at this time. And then you'll see it's got 4.5 stars, so it's trusted. It's a very good extension. And you'll notice this little play icon appears up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to test it out right now. So I've got this little test Java file here. I'm going to drag it in. As you can see, it's just a simple hello world program. And then I'm going to navigate my way up here and then click the play button. Now you'll notice that hello world is output down the bottom here. So what VS Code is doing here is instead of manually needing to compile our classes in our Java file, it just automatically compiles them for us when we click that run button, and then it will print that output for us as well. So what happens usually in order to compile a Java class is you need to open up a terminal and use the Java C command to actually compile that class. And then after that, use the Java command to actually run the application. So as you can see, it's a bit of a tedious progress if we wanted to do that over and over to check changes quickly in our program. So what Code Runner does is it streamlines that process and makes it a lot easier for us to quickly check what our program is outputting. And I would say that is the most essential VS Code extension for me. So I 100% recommend you guys add that right now. So this is basically going to be our little AI coding assistant. It's basically going to read what we're typing in real time and suggest things that it thinks that we want to type out in our code. So what you're going to want to do here is press the install button, and you'll notice here down in the bottom, we're going to get a little pop-up that says sign in to use tab 9. So we'll click that and then open it up in our web browser. I'm using Safari for this tutorial, but you can use what you like. Then we're going to need to sign up and create an account, and then go ahead and click that create account button. Then we're going to get a little prompt here saying that we need to sign in using an authentication token. So what we're going to do here is copy this token. After you guys have copied that token, we're going to go back to our VS Code and we're going to open up our command palette. So we're going to do this by pressing Command Shift P on Mac or Control Shift P on Windows. And then we're going to type in tab 9 sign in using auth token. And then we're just going to click sign in here. And then we will get a prompt here telling us to enter our auth token. So make sure you paste that authentication token inside the prompt there and then press enter. And then you'll notice after that we get a little notification down here saying that we are signed in. Now you may also notice that there's a red exclamation mark down here. You'll just want to click that and it'll open up our tab 9 hub in our VS Code, and it's just telling us that we need to verify our email. So make sure you go inside of your emails and verify that really quickly. As you can see, I go into my Gmail here, I go and I see I've got a new email from tab 9, I click it, and then there is an option to verify now. After I click that, it'll send me to this webpage here, notifying me that I have verified my email address. After that, navigate your way back to VS Code, and you'll notice that that red notification telling you to activate your email address should have disappeared. If it hasn't, just wait a little bit longer, and it should disappear. And then after that, we are ready to use tab 9. So what you're going to want to do is create a new file or drag in an existing file. I've just created this file test.java on my desktop here, and I'm dragging that in. It's completely blank, so we're starting from scratch. I'm going to create a class called test, and then we're going to wrap that here in parentheses. So you'll notice that as we go to the next line in our code, tab 9 is already suggesting what it thinks we're going to want to write next in our code. So in Java, the first thing you need to do is create the main method, and that's what it's suggesting that we do here. So the way that it works is it suggests what it thinks we're going to write next, and then we can choose to press the tab key, and that auto completes the suggestion for us. If we don't want to write what it's suggesting to us, we just keep on typing what we were going to type originally. So you'll see here that it's suggesting to me to write a system.out.println method with the text hello world, but I actually don't want to do that for this particular program. So what I'm going to do is just write what I was going to originally write instead. So I'm going to declare an int variable here. I'm going to call it I, and I'm going to make it equal to 0. And then you'll actually notice it suggests a while loop here for us. So it has the complete while loop already typed out for us. All we need to do is press tab if we want that code to be generated. So what's going to happen in this simple program is it's going to check if I is less than 10. And if it is, we're going to print out I, and then we're going to increment the value of I by 1. So we should get an output of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on individual lines. And so what we're going to do is we're going to navigate up here to the top right hand section of our VS Code and click our run button. And then you'll notice that our program is outputting as expected. Now you're probably thinking that's a really cool feature that Tab9 has, but there's one more thing that makes it even cooler. So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate our way down to this panel on the left here, and you should see this icon that's popped up since we've installed Tab9. So this is the Tab9 logo, and what we're going to do, we're just going to click on it here, and you'll notice it opens up an AI chat feature. I'm going to type something in here like, write me a hello world program. This is very simple, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be showing you what it's going to do. So as you can see, it generates some code here, and what we're going to do is actually click that insert button there, and it'll automatically copy and paste that code into our environment here, into our file. And I'm just going to remove the public keyword here because we don't need it. It's a very small file that we're working with. So once we've done that, we're going to save our file, and then we're going to click our run button up here. Okay, now we should get an output that says hello world. So you'll see that the code generated by Tab9 works. It's not faulty. There's not any bugs that I've come across in my time. Sometimes you have to change a few things like I had to do there. I had to remove the public keyword in order to get it to run. Just tinker with it a little bit. You'll find that it works 99% of the time. Now I know that a lot of my subscribers are web developers, so this next extension is very cool. We're going to go into our extension tab here and type in live server. Now this is a very cool extension and absolutely essential if you guys want to be professional web developers. So install that right now if you haven't already, and down the bottom you'll notice that we get a little pop-up here that says go live. So what that's going to do is it's basically going to allow us to simultaneously code and see what the changes we make in our code are in our actual browser. So what I'm going to do here is open up a project that I've been working on. This is the previous tutorial that I put up on my channel. Now, when I'm in my index.html file and I click that go live button, you'll notice that the program that I've been working on is going to open up in my web browser. And I don't manually have to open up the index.html file from the actual folder that I'm working in. So that's really cool. Now you'll notice here, I'm going to go back in and I'm actually going to remove the style sheet from my program. So I'll just comment it out now, and then I'll make sure that I save my file. And then I'll go back into my web browser, and you'll notice that straight away after saving the file, all my styling will be removed from my program. It allows you to preview your project in real time. You don't have to continually save the file and then open it back up in your web browser, close it again, save the file. It just automatically does that for you when you save your file in your IDE. So that's very cool. Highly recommend that. Now let's move on to the next one. This next extension is very useful for data scientists or data analysts. Have you ever been programming in VS Code or your IDE and you wish that you could just view your Excel spreadsheet inside of VS Code without having to navigate to a completely different application? Well, this extension does it for you. So let me show you what happens when we actually drag an Excel file into VS Code without having this extension installed, okay? So as you can see, I've got this employee sample data here. I'm going to drag that into my VS Code, and then we'll get a warning message here that says the file is not displayed in the text editor because it is either binary or uses an unsupported text encoding. I'm just going to click this button here that says open anyway and just select text editor here. Now, this is what our spreadsheet looks like inside VS Code right now. So as you can see, this is completely useless. We can't use any of this data. We can't see any of it even. So what I'm going to do here is navigate over to my extension tab, and I'm going to type in Excel Viewer inside the search bar here, okay? Now it's going to be the first extension that pops up here by Grape City, and all we're going to do is install it, okay? And then we're going to go back here and we're going to drag our employee sample data back in, and look what happens. We have a beautiful spreadsheet displayed in our VS Code without any errors. We can see our data nicely formatted. So that is the beauty of this extension, guys. If you're a data scientist or a data analyst, this is such a powerful tool. It helps you visualize your data without actually having to navigate from VS Code back to Excel, back to VS Code, and so forth. And I highly recommend that if you guys are studying data science or data analytics, make sure you have this extension installed on your VS Code. So this next extension is very cool as well. If you guys are needing to present your code or, just show a walkthrough of how your code works, whether it be to employees or your friends, family, whoever, this is a very cool extension that you guys can install. It is called Code Tour. So it's going to be this one here by Jonathan Carter. So props to him for creating this extension. It's very cool. What we're going to do is just install that here, and then we're going to drag in a project that I am actually working on at the moment. You guys can drag in any project. I'm just using this for the sake of the tutorial, and you'll see after we've installed our Code Tour extension, we'll have this little Code Tour tab in our Explorer of our VS Code here. Now what we can do here is open up any file. It can be a HTML file, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, whatever you want, and we're going to click this button down here, Record Tour. Now we're going to get a prompt up the top here that says specify the title of the tour or save it to a specific location. So this is just naming our tour. I'm going to call it HTML tour for now. And you'll notice that a new tour is created down here on our left. Now, just for this example, say that I wanted to explain to somebody what the body section of my HTML was doing, okay? So instead of commenting what each line does, I can actually go to the line in my code here and I can click the plus symbol over here on the left. Now a prompt will pop up asking us to type a new comment. So for this example, I'm just going to type in create div container to hold contents on note-taking app. Now what I'm going to do is go down here and click add step to tour. And you'll notice we get a pop-up here and it is the start of our tour. So this is going to be the first step, the first point of our tour, if you will. And you'll see we've got our comment there and it's going to be step 1 of 1. All right. So what I can do to exit that is just click this little arrow here and then we'll go to the next line and create another step. So I'm just going to write second step of our program and click add step to tour. Now you'll notice that there is also a previous button here that pops up. This navigates our way back to the previous step that we just created, which was creating our div container, and then you can click next to go to step 2 of our tour. And as you can see, the steps also appear over here on the left in our Explorer. Let's go to this line here and create a new comment, creating list header, and you'll notice that we have another step that appears on the left here in our Explorer. Now I'm going to create another step and just say use icon from font awesome. And then I'm going to add that step to the tour as well. You'll notice we get that added down the bottom in our Explorer. And now let's run through our code tour from the start. So I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to click HTML tour here. And then I'm going to go to the first step. And then I'm going to click next. And that's going to go to step 2. And it's going to navigate to that line, step 3. And then I'm going to click next again. And you'll notice that each time I go through these steps, we just get a little tick here as we've completed them. And then I'm going to go to my 4th step here. You'll see step number 4 of 4. And then I can click either previous and go back and look at the different steps that I've created if I want to review them again, or just finish tour there. Now you'll see that the green tick appears at the top of our tour, and that means we have finished. We can always redo it again. You can do it as many times as you want. Now you'll notice that we can also edit the steps here as well. So once you've created them, it's not set in stone. You guys can edit the comments. So that's a very cool feature as well. So this next extension is very cool. We're going to go to our search bar here and type in to do, and then we're going to click the first one here called to do highlights. We're just going to click the install button there, and then afterwards just open a file of your choosing. It can be any file you want. Now you'll see in my JavaScript file here, I have a function called update note, okay? Say I need to do something later on inside of my update note function to change it or something. We need to alter it somehow. So what most people would do when they first start out programming is they'll put a comment above the function that they've written or inside the function just to remind them that they need to do something later on, whether they need to alter it, fix it, whatever they need to do just to get it working. They'll write a comment there just to remind them. Now, by all means, this is a great thing to do, but the problem with this is in large scale projects, your comments can get lost in your code very, very easily. So with this extension, to do highlight, what's going to happen is we're just going to use a keyword to do here, and then we're just going to put a colon, and then afterwards we're going to write our comment. So you'll notice there that our to-do section is going to be highlighted in a bright yellow. Now this is very beneficial because when you're scrolling through a lot of code, you can easily miss like a lot of comments. So when you see this big bright yellow highlighted text appear, you'll be like, oh, yep, there's my comment. And then you'll be able to go and fix it accordingly. Now, if for any reason you don't like that bright yellow color, you can also use a bright reddish color, and you can use that by typing fix me in capital letters parentheses and then a colon and then write your comment after that. And now your comment has a nice red highlighted section there that stands out. Now, if for any reason this extension is not working as expected, like you can't see the highlighted section appear, what we're going to do is open up our command palette on our VS Code. So on Mac, this is Command Shift P, and then on Windows, it's Control Shift P. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to type in toggle H. Now you'll notice this little pop-up here that says to do highlight, toggle highlight. Make sure you click that. So in this example, I've already got it set up so you can see that my comments are highlighted. But if I toggle H here in my command palette and press enter, you'll notice that the highlighted section disappears. So when you first install the extension, just make sure that you go into your command palette and type in toggle H and press enter just to ensure that the extension is working as predicted. The next extension is not so much productive as it is decorative. I'm just including it because I like my VS Code to look aesthetic and clean, and I think that incorporating this extension just adds to the overall aesthetic of the development environment. So basically how it works is I've got a few files open here. You can see index.html, script.js, and style.css. Now the icons that represent those files look okay, but they don't look amazing. We can make them look a whole lot better, and we can do this by going into our extension section here, and we'll just type in material icon. Now it's going to be the first one that pops up by Philip Keefe, and we're just going to install that one here, okay? And it's going to prompt us to select a theme once we have, and we're just going to make sure that we select our material icon theme. Now, if I close that and go back to Explorer here, inside of our folder, our index.html file, our script.js, and our style.css files all have really cool icons next to them. And they'll also appear up the top there in the tab section. So I think that just looks a whole lot nicer than the built-in VS Code icons that they provide. You don't have to do this, like I said before, but I just think it adds to the overall aesthetics of the program. This next extension is an absolute game changer. If you guys have created a large or medium scale project, you'll know that creating a UML diagram is one of the most beneficial things you can do before you even start coding. Now, in order to create these diagrams, you need to use a completely different piece of software or a web application to do so. Now, whilst that is great and they're very powerful tools, if you guys just want something really quick to use, this is one of the best extensions that I have ever come across. So what we're going to do here is we're going to navigate over to our extension tab here, and we're going to type in Draw.io. We're going to click on the first one here and just install it. And then I'm going to go over here into my folder. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm just going to call it drawing.draw.io. So what's very important here is that you guys add the .draw.io extension, otherwise this won't work. And now as soon as we do so, you'll notice that an offline version of Draw.io will appear inside of our VS Code. And I can go down into the general tab here and drag this rectangle in. I can drag this cylinder in here, and then I can also drag in this line, and I can connect the rectangle to the cylinder. I can then make that cylinder as big as I want it to be, and then I can label it database, for example, and then I can label the rectangle up here server. So this is just a quick diagram linking our database to our server. You can do a whole lot of other things too. You can link class, lists, whatever you guys want. You can also change the colors of all these different shapes as well, so make it nice and appealing. And once you're finished creating your diagram, you can go to the file section here and then click export, and then you can export your file as an SVG file, a PNG file, or a Draw.io file. So I use this extension all the time, guys. It's very useful before you're starting each of your projects to create a diagram and just to visualize the overall structure without having to chop and change between different programs. So having everything in VS Code just helps tenfold. This next extension is super cool. Essentially, what it allows you to do is produce really high quality code snippets. If you have a snippet of code that you need to show to somebody and you need to present it in a professional manner, this is a really good tool to help you with that. So the extension is called Polar Code, all right? Now, it's basically a Polaroid for your code. That is their tagline, if you will. But what you want to do is make sure that you don't install the first one that pops up. You want to install the 2022 version. So the original version actually had a lot of bugs, and it ended up breaking back in 2019. So make sure you guys install that because it is the actual working version and is up to date. Next, I'm going to navigate my way to my script.js file, and I'm just going to bring up my command palette. Inside of my command palette, I'm going to type in Polar Code and then press enter. And you'll notice that our Polar Code extension pops up here on the right. So as you can see, we're presented with this snippet of code that just outlines how we use the extension. So what I'm going to do here is just make this a little bigger, and I'm going to highlight my close pop-up function here, okay? Now you'll just see as soon as I highlight it in real time, it will be converted over into our Polar code extension here, and we can see a preview of our code snippet. Now we have two options here, shadow and transparent. If I click shadow, I can toggle the shadow on and off, and then if I click transparent, I can toggle the transparency on and off. So if I want a nice little background there, I can turn the transparency off and then choose a color for the background. I'm just going to use this nice purple color. Now we'll click this little icon down here, and this allows us to export our code in the form of a PNG file. And then as soon as I click save, you can see that it gets sent to my desktop here, and I can open it up, and I've got this beautifully formatted piece of code that's ready to be presented to anybody of my choosing. So I would highly recommend that you guys install this extension, especially if you present your code to people quite often. Now this next extension can be an absolute lifesaver. What I'm going to do to demonstrate how useful this extension can be is I'm just going to drag this test.java file off my desktop into my VS Code. And then as you can see, I have this simple test class here. Inside, we've got our main method, and then we have a Boolean declared here called b, and it's equal to false. And then we just have a simple if statement, okay? So if b is equal to false, then we print out Boolean is false. And then if b is equal to anything else, which it can only be equal to true, then we're going to output Boolean is not false. Now you may notice a couple of issues in our code here. Pause the video and see if you can spot them. So if you guys did notice, when we've declared our Boolean variable here, our Boolean keyword is spelled incorrectly. It's meant to be BOOLEAN instead of BOLEAN. So when we compile our code in a second here, we're going to come across an error that could have been avoided if we had this extension installed. You'll also notice that in our first print line function here, we've got a sentence that has a word spelt incorrectly. While this particular spelling error won't actually stop our program from running, it's very important that we do fix these, especially if you guys are deploying this in a professional workspace. As you can see here, when we run our code, we have a compilation error on line 4 of our Java file. Now this is good, we've identified the error and we can go fix it accordingly, but what would be really nice is if we never had to encounter this error in the first place. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to my extensions and I'm going to type in code spell checker. Now it's going to be the first one that pops up here by Street Side Software, and all you're going to do is click that install button. Now let's go back to our Java file here, and the first thing that we're going to notice is our Boolean keyword is underlined blue. Now, much like Microsoft Word and many other applications, this extension is able to identify which words are spelt incorrectly inside of our code, and it will let us know what needs to be fixed. You'll also notice here that in our print line function, it has correctly identified that the word false has been spelt incorrectly. So what we can do now is we can hover over our Boolean keyword that's spelt wrong, and we can click quick fix. And what it's going to do is it's going to suggest us words that it thinks that we were going to type out. So as you can see, we've got Boolean here, the second from the top. And if we click that, then it'll just quickly change our Boolean keyword to be spelt correctly. If you don't want to use that quick fix function, you can just manually type it out like I've done here as well. Now you can see here when we run our code, we have a perfect output with 0 errors. You'll see Boolean is false as output here because b is equal to false. So whilst this is a very basic extension, it is extremely helpful and saves you a lot of time, especially when you're coming across a lot of compilation errors. So the next extension on our list is called Prettier. What this is an automatic code formatter. So when you guys are writing your code, you'll want to make sure that you format it and structure it correctly. Good formatting is beneficial for multiple reasons, including optimizing the readability of your code. So when you're working on a project with multiple other people, you'll want to make sure that they can read and comprehend the code that you've written without any issues. This extension is fantastic for doing exactly that. It takes all the formatting worry away and just automatically does it itself. So what I'm going to do is drag in this test JavaScript file here, and you can see I've got these 3 functions. Now, while these functions are empty, they're formatted terribly. So what we're going to do, we're going to head over to our extensions panel here, and we're going to type in Prettier. It's going to be the first one that pops up, so we're going to install that there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to head down to our settings here. What we're going to do is type in format on save, and we're going to make sure that that is ticked. This is going to ensure that every time we save a file inside of our VS Code, it's automatically going to be formatted. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up our command palette, and we're going to type in preferences, open user settings. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our extension tab here, and we're just going to copy this snippet of code into our settings.json file. So just highlight that, copy it, and then over here in our settings.json file, we're going to add a comma at the end here of our format on save. Then we're going to paste in the code snippet that we copied from our extension, and then make sure that you save the settings file. Now we're going to go back into our test JavaScript file here. We're going to go file and then save, and then straight away you're going to notice that our code is formatted beautifully into this nice nested structure. So that is the beauty of this extension. It worries about all the formatting and structuring of your code for you, leaving you guys more time to focus on the project that you're working on. Okay, so the last extension on our list is called Vibrancy. So much like our icons extension, this is very much decorative. It doesn't really have any other purpose besides making sure that your VS Code looks immaculate. So in your extension search bar, type in Vibrancy, and then it's going to be the second one that pops up. Now let's have a look here in the description of the extension. Now when you install this extension, you're going to receive an error code in the bottom right hand side of your VS Code that says, your code installation appears to be corrupt, please reinstall. Now the developer of this extension has acknowledged this error. They've told us that the warning is safe to disregard and all changes can be reverted. Now, if you click on the cogwheel and select don't show again, you'll never see that error message pop up when you start up your VS Code. Now, one of the most important things that you guys need to do before you install this extension is make sure that your theme is set to dark plus. So whatever theme that you guys have right now in your VS Code, make sure that you revert it back to the default theme, which is dark plus. So after you guys have reverted the theme back to dark plus, it is safe to install our theme. So what we're going to do is click the install button on Vibrancy Continued, and then we're going to open our command palette and type in reload Vibrancy. After you've selected that, we'll get a notification in the bottom right hand corner here that says Vibrancy enabled, restart to take effect. So what we're going to do is click that there, and it's just going to close our VS Code for us and restart it accordingly. Now when it pops up, we've got this nice glass morphism kind of design here. And you'll also see here in the bottom right hand corner, we received that warning that we were talking about earlier. All we're going to do is click that settings button and then click don't show again. So there's nothing to worry about, as the developer said in their description. The only reason that it's popping up is that it's editing the VS Code's built-in CSS. So as you can see, we've got that nice glass look that we were after, and we can use this with any other theme that we've also installed in our VS Code. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change my theme to Pale Night, which was what I was running before in my VS Code. So you'll see that I can actually use the Vibrancy Continued theme and my Pale Night theme at the same time. So you guys don't have to say goodbye to whatever theme that you were using originally. So what I'm going to do to showcase how nice this extension makes your VS Code look is I'm going to change the background on my desktop to something a little bit more vibrant. So I've chosen this really nice vibrant wallpaper, and you can see all the colors are coming through the back of our VS Code now. So that is really nice. It gives that nice transparent look, that glass morphism kind of design. And like I said before, this is purely decorative, so it doesn't really add any benefit to your VS Code besides making it look pretty, but I just like it. So I highly recommend that you guys add this extension. It looks really nice. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of the video. I hope this helped you guys out a lot. These are the VS Code extensions that I've been using in my day-to-day life as a computer science student. There are plenty more extensions that I could list in this video, but for me, these are the ones that I use the most. If you guys want to suggest any that I haven't put in the video, please make sure to comment them down below. And while you're at it, you might as well smash that like button and please subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. I hope you guys are having an amazing 2024 so far, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.